Let's do this rotation activity that goes along with this word fatigue. Sometimes this rotation activity will involve a brand new word and that only give the students visuals to go with it. Sometimes it'll tie in like it does today. Today it ties in. You click that, and then you click it the right way, and you go to a slide that looks like this. The directions at the top put the context clue on a web for the word fatigue. So students these are posted all around the room, in that corner, back there on the closet, there, where is it? There it is, to the right of it. Right, over there, and over here, right? So your students will physically get up with their web in their notebook and fill it out, okay? So your student always has an opportunity to get up and move, because even adults need a break every 15 minutes, right? They can't do more than 15 minutes of work without losing some concentration. So I give students the opportunity to look at words in different ways, and this one is on the move and involves visuals as well, so for kinesthetic and visual learners, all right? So fatigue, physical or mental exhaustion, this is what their web would look like, and they would take a look at the picture and think, okay, what am I seeing here that I could add to the web? Well, look, there's a depleted battery up there, so I might put battery life. She's slumped. Oh, I already have that on my web, but I might look at this little windy thing, right? And it looks like she needs to be wound up. Well, if someone's wound up, Mr. Surface, it seems to me like that would be the opposite of what fatigue means. Well, using antonyms to help understand words, right? It's hard to understand what hot is without cold, or to understand cold without hot. Well, here we have wound up to help us understand the word fatigue using an antonym, right? These sorts of relationships and interrelationships between vocabulary are part and parcel of this activity. So these are the other slides that your student would visit around the room and use to fill in their web even more. In this case, someone asleep at their desk. A runner, exhausted. Remember the antonym? Notice how opposite this is, right? All of these silhouettes here are completely energetic. Well, that can help us understand the word fatigue as well, right? I'm going to put energetic. Right? Energetic is an antonym. It's an antonym. If you think it's useful, and I would probably have students do this, I would have them label the antonyms, at least this early in the year. So if they go back to study it later in the week, it won't confuse them. All right? Then I'll count the students down, they'll all return to their seats, and we'll make a perfect sentence together as a class. Here's what that looks like. Notice once again, we have the color red. So you can expect to see a sentence like this every Monday in your student's notebook, okay? In this case, it says directions, add on to the perfect sentence with 5 details. When I say perfect sentence in this room, it's another that I learned from the John Hopkins professor. It's another strategy that helps students to understand the context that feeds into particular words. And the more they do it and get a taste for the texture of words and language and new language, the more likely they are to, when they encounter new words on a vocabulary test or a PSSA, they're more likely to be successful. All right, so let's take a look. The marathon runner felt blank when, and I would ask the class, what word ought to go there? Fatigue, so we would write that in there together. Fatigue. And we would underline it, right, because that's the term. And then we would look at our webs, and they could use these pictures to help them too if they were slow going during the rotation process. So I would consolidate them up here, provide a new picture for new context, and think, okay, what could we do to add details onto this sentence that show us what fatigue means? Well, we already got marathon on our web, so we can circle that. We've already got runner on our web, so we can circle that. It is likely that fatigue, exhaustion is something that we feel in our body. Ooh, I'm so tired, ooh, right? So there's our third detail, which means we have 2 details to go. Now let's use these pictures down here. And I would say, okay, students, take 1 minute or 30 seconds, and I might count it off, like basketball style. Take 30 seconds, please, and I want you to think about the word fatigue and think about the sentence and look at these pictures and think, what could you add to the sentence that would give us at least 2 more details that tell us what the word fatigue means, okay? So I'll do that, they would think, and then they would write if they thought and were able to put thoughts to paper, and then I would help them as well as an instructor. So, the marathon runner felt fatigue when she dropped out of the race. She was not energetic. My apologies for the sloppy handwriting. So, what details show us what the word fatigue means? Well, if you drop out of a race, that's certainly no good. And if you are not energetic, well, that phrase might function as a synonym for fatigue. All right? So now we have a perfect sentence. We have a web to go with the perfect sentence. And as I mentioned, sometimes there'll be 2 webs, probably later in the year. And then we'll move on to the partner quiz. That'll be a separate video, but just know that your student will be working with another student cooperatively to make their own links, right, that we went over at the beginning, and to make their own perfect sentences based on new vocabulary words. Thank you.